Welcome, dreamers of the quiet night. You are listening to The Sleepy Cloud, where the wind tells stories older than the stars, and where each tale drifts softly through your mind like mist over the ancient hills. Tonight, we journey far back, to the time when gods walked among the clouds and shaped the earth with their will. Let your thoughts slow down. Let your heart rest, and listen to the birth of Athena, the goddess who came not from the womb, but from the lightning and wisdom of Zeus himself. Before mortals built temples or sang the names of the gods, the world was young and wild. The oceans were restless, the mountains raw and new, and even the stars were still finding their places in the heavens. The great Titans ruled then, ancient beings of boundless strength, older than the sky itself. But from their storm came new life, the gods of Olympus, children of power and light, who would one day take the throne of the heavens. Among them was Zeus, son of Cronus and Rhea. He had freed the world from the tyranny of his father, shattering the old order and bringing the age of the Olympians. With thunder in his hands and command over the skies, he became the ruler of gods and men. Zeus was mighty, but even he knew that no reign lasts forever. For in the stillness of the high clouds, where even wind dared not breathe, a whisper began to circle among the fates, the three sisters who wove the destiny of every being, from mortal to god. They spun their golden threads in silence and murmured a secret that chilled even the sun. From wisdom shall come the one who will surpass the Father. It was a prophecy that a child born of Zeus and Metis, the Titaness of wisdom, would be greater than her father. Some said the child would bring wisdom beyond imagination. Others whispered she might one day overthrow Zeus himself. And when Zeus heard the rumor drift through Olympus like smoke, a shadow crossed his heart. Metis, the one named in the prophecy, was no ordinary goddess. She was one of the eldest daughters of the Titans Oceanus and Tethys, born from the endless waters that circled the earth. Her mind was as deep as the sea and as calm as moonlight. The other gods often came to her for counsel, even Zeus himself. She could see into the thoughts of others, speak gently yet truthfully, and weave plans so subtle that even fate seemed to pause before her wisdom. Zeus had admired her for ages. After his war against the Titans, when Olympus rose in gold and thunder, it was Metis who guided him. Her advice helped him outsmart his enemies, calm the furious seas, and bring order to chaos. And as time passed, Zeus found himself drawn not just to her counsel, but to her quiet strength. He asked for her hand, and in time, Metis agreed. Together they became companions, the power of thunder and the peace of thought. But even as their union grew, the whisper of prophecy echoed louder among the gods. Metis shall bear 2 children, the first a daughter with wisdom equal to her mother's, the second a son destined to be mightier than his father. That second line filled Zeus with dread. Though Zeus was mighty, his heart still carried the scars of his father, Cronus, the Titan who devoured his children for fear of being replaced. Zeus had overthrown Cronus, freeing his siblings from the Titan's belly, but deep within, the same fear began to stir. He would not be undone as his father had been. And yet the thought of Metis, gentle, wise, and full of grace, carrying such a child, tore him in two. He loved her deeply, but fear began to cloud his mind like gathering thunder. He watched her with affection, yet the whispers of destiny grew louder with each passing moon. Even the fates remained silent when he sought answers, and silence, to Zeus, was the loudest omen of all. So one day, while the golden sky of Olympus shone bright and Metis walked beside a stream of silver water, Zeus approached her quietly. "Beloved Metis," he said, his voice like a soft rumble before a storm, "I have seen strange dreams. A child born from our union, wise beyond all, strong beyond measure. The fates speak of it, yet hide their full meaning. Tell me, my love, what do you see?" Metis smiled, her eyes calm as ever. "Dreams are but ripples, my king. Let not fear darken the gift of life." Her words were meant to soothe him, but they did not. For deep in his heart, Zeus heard the echo of his father's voice, the same fear that once ruled the Titans. He looked at the river, at her reflection shimmering in the water, and saw not love, but the future, uncertain and bright, perhaps too bright for him to control. That night, Zeus stood upon the highest peak of Olympus, the sky roaring around him. The fates appeared before him, silent, veiled, holding the golden thread that represented his destiny. Without words, they stretched the thread in their bony hands. It shimmered, and then split in two. Zeus fell to his knees. "What does this mean?" he demanded. The eldest fate, Clotho, whispered, "Two paths lie ahead, O Thunderer. From the womb of wisdom comes your greatest strength, or your fall." And then they vanished into the storm. The thunder rolled endlessly that night. Echoing through the heavens, Zeus stared into the dark clouds, his heart heavy. He loved Metis, yet the prophecy could not be ignored. And thus began the shadow that would change the course of Olympus, the fear that would lead to one of the strangest births ever known to gods or mortals. The birth of Athena, the goddess who came not from the womb, but from the lightning and wisdom of Zeus himself.
Long before the Olympians ruled, before even the first flame of reason touched humankind, there existed the elder beings, the Titans. From the rivers of eternity and the oceans of thought they were born. Among them, one shone with quiet brilliance, Metis, daughter of Oceanus and Tethys, the embodiment of intelligence, foresight, and cunning wisdom. While her Titankin sought to master the elements, earth, sea, and sky, Metis mastered something greater, understanding. She could see patterns in chaos, calm storms with logic, and turn rage into resolve. Her mind was both sword and balm, and even the currents of time seemed to bend respectfully around her presence. Mortals, who would one day tell this story in their temples and songs, would call her the thought that moves all things. When Zeus rose up against the Titans to free his siblings from Cronus's belly, it was Metis who guided him. She taught him the difference between strength and cleverness, between thunder and timing. It was she who whispered, "Do not fight strength with strength, but with knowledge, for even a storm must listen to the wind." Through her guidance, Zeus outwitted his father, forcing Cronus to drink the potion that made him release his swallowed children. One by one, the Olympians emerged: Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia. The Titanomachy that followed, that great war of gods and titans, raged for 10 long years, but it was Metis's strategy that led Zeus to victory. When at last the Titans were cast into Tartarus, and the thunder of Zeus echoed as the new law of heaven, it was Metis who stood beside him, serene and wise. She became his counselor, his confidant, and eventually his love. Their bond was unlike any other among the gods. Where Zeus's energy was wild and boundless, Metis's calm intellect balanced him. When he raged, she soothed him with reason. When he hesitated, she reminded him of vision. Together, they formed harmony, power guided by wisdom. In the golden halls of Olympus, when other gods debated, it was often Metis's soft voice that settled their quarrels. Even Poseidon, proud as the sea, would pause when she spoke. Hera, radiant and sharp, admired her, though some say envy stirred beneath that admiration, for Metis was beloved by Zeus in a way that was deeper than passion. The other gods would whisper, "Metis is not like us. Her words shape the will of the Thunderer." Zeus would smile at such words. To him, Metis was his equal, the only being whose thoughts could keep pace with his own. Yet, destiny has a way of weaving quietly before it reveals itself. One evening, as twilight bathed the marble of Olympus in soft gold, Metis and Zeus stood upon a balcony overlooking the world below. The rivers gleamed like molten silver, the forests stretched endless, and far below, humankind began its slow dawn, simple, curious, full of potential. Metis spoke softly. "They will rise, these small ones, not in strength, but in wisdom. The gift of thought is a seed that cannot be unplanted." Zeus looked down, his face thoughtful. He said, "Wisdom is a dangerous gift. Even the gods are bound by it. It grows beyond our will." Metis turned to him, smiling faintly. "That is the nature of wisdom, my king. It belongs to no one. It only grows." Her words lingered, haunting and beautiful, and somewhere in those words, the prophecy took root. That night, Metis dreamed. In her dream, she stood in a field of white lilies under a sky full of stars. The air was still, and the flowers shimmered as if made of moonlight. In the distance, she saw a golden owl perched upon a marble pillar. The owl turned its head slowly and spoke in a voice that was both her own and not her own. "The daughter of wisdom shall awaken from thunder." Metis felt her hand rest upon her belly, and in that instant, she knew she carried within her the beginning of something new. Not a child of chaos or war, but of reason and strength. A child who would embody the best of both parents. When she awoke, dawn had broken, and the first light of day rested gently on Zeus's face as he slept beside her. She smiled softly, touching his cheek, unaware that the dream she had just seen was not merely a dream. It was the prophecy itself. But word travels fast among immortals. The winds that served Iris, messenger of the gods, carried whispers from one realm to another. Soon, even the Fates, those three ancient weavers of destiny, were speaking of the unborn child. "Wise shall she be, this daughter of thunder and thought, and strong, too strong. Her mind shall pierce the heavens, her heart shall never fear." When Zeus heard these whispers, the same shadow that had haunted him before began to return, He remembered his father, Cronus, who feared his children so much that he swallowed them whole. He remembered the dark belly of time from which he had freed his siblings. He remembered the pain of prophecy, that cruel, self-fulfilling circle. And he thought, if the child of Metis surpasses me, what becomes of the ruler of Olympus? The thought thundered louder than the sky. Days passed. Zeus became quieter, more thoughtful. When Metis spoke, he still listened, but his eyes often wandered toward the horizon, as if searching for answers in the distance. The laughter that once filled their halls now echoed with unease. Metis sensed it. She was, after all, the goddess of perception. She could see through silence as easily as through speech. One evening, she asked him, "Why does thunder rest so heavily in your heart, my love?" Zeus hesitated. Then he said, "Because I have seen the thread of fate, and I do not yet know whether it binds me or breaks me." Metis placed her hand on his shoulder. Fate binds no one. Only fear does. But her words, though true, could not still the storm that was already building inside Zeus. As nights turned to weeks, the light in Olympus began to shift. The gods went about their duties. Apollo drew the chariot of the sun. Demeter tended to the earth. Poseidon ruled the seas. Yet all felt that something unseen was changing. Metis spent her days by the rivers of thought, weaving ideas into golden thread, her mind peaceful and patient. In her heart, she felt the stirring of life, not yet born, but full of promise. She often whispered to the child within her, "You shall be wise, my little one, wise and brave. You shall see the truth beyond fear." She could not know that Zeus, from afar, watched her with eyes full of love and sorrow, for soon his fear would drive him to do the unthinkable.
In the golden dawn of Olympus, thunder once meant life, a sign that the heavens were awake. But now, as days passed, the thunder grew distant and heavy. Its echo was slower, lonelier, like the heartbeat of a god uncertain of his place in the cosmos. The gods of Olympus still sang, laughed, and feasted. Apollo's lyre filled the air. Hermes carried messages across the winds, and Hera prepared the halls for another celebration of victory. Yet, behind the laughter, there was unease. They all felt it, a tremor in the order of things, as if something unseen stirred beneath the clouds. And at the heart of it stood Zeus, ruler of heaven and sky. Zeus sat alone upon his throne of gold and stormlight. The air around him shimmered with quiet thunder. His crown gleamed faintly, but his eyes, the eyes that had once watched over creation with strength and calm, now held a flicker of doubt. He had faced monsters, defeated titans, and mastered the lightning of creation. Yet now, it was not war or rebellion that haunted him. It was a whisper, one simple truth carried by the fates. A child of wisdom shall surpass the father. The words repeated in his mind like a drumbeat. Each night he would climb to the highest peak of Olympus, where the wind cut through the stars. There he would close his eyes and listen to the silence of heaven, hoping to hear something other than the echo of that prophecy. But silence answered him always. He tried to reason with himself. Perhaps the prophecy meant greatness of mind, not power. Perhaps it meant harmony, not rebellion. But deep down, Zeus knew the gods' fates were rarely kind and never vague. In the stillness of the night, Zeus remembered his father, Cronus, the Titan who had devoured his own children to stop a prophecy that foretold his downfall. He remembered the horror of that time, the endless dark inside Cronus's belly, the muffled cries of his siblings, the cold silence of being forgotten. He had sworn never to become like his father. And yet, as he looked toward Metis, his beloved, gentle, wise Metis, and saw the growing light of life within her, a terrible thought began to form. What if the prophecy repeats itself? What if the child within her will overthrow me as I once overthrew my father? The thought would not fade. It circled his mind like a vulture over still air. One evening, when the skies were violet with twilight, Zeus called his brothers and sisters to council. They gathered in the hall of clouds, marble and gold shimmering like sunlight through mist. Poseidon came first, proud and restless, smelling of the sea. Hermes appeared in a ripple of shadow, silent as stone. Hera, regal and composed, sat beside Zeus, her gaze sharp. Demeter brought a garland of wheat, and Hestia came quietly, warmth radiating from her like a hearth fire. "My 10," Zeus said at last, his voice calm but strained. "The fates have spoken. A prophecy has been whispered across Olympus that a child born of my union with Metis shall surpass me." The words hung in the air like storm clouds. Poseidon frowned. "You have faced prophecy before, brother. Are you afraid of a child?" Zeus's eyes flashed, not of the child, of the destiny that may follow. Hera's voice was soft but piercing. "You speak as our father did, Zeus, and yet you swore never to repeat his fear." A silence followed. Hades leaned forward, his dark eyes glimmering. "Prophecy has no mercy, brother, but it does have patience. Whatever is meant will come, whether you hide from it or face it." Zeus turned away, pacing. "You speak easily, Hades, who deals with endings, but this is the birth of something that could undo everything we have built." Demeter rose and placed a hand on his arm. "Then guide it, Zeus. Do not destroy what you do not yet understand." But Zeus said nothing. The thunder muttered faintly beyond the marble walls, and the gods exchanged uneasy looks. For even the immortals could feel it, a shift in the balance of heaven. That night, as Zeus sat alone, 3 shapes appeared before him. Cloaked in darkness, their eyes glowed with starlight. The Moriah, the Fates themselves. Clothos, who spins the thread of life. Lechesis, who measures it, and Atropos, who cuts it when the time has come. "King of the sky," they whispered, their voices weaving together like wind through reeds. "You have heard what is written. The child of Metis shall be strong of mind and heart. Tell me," Zeus demanded, "will she destroy me?" The Fates tilted their heads. "We do not speak of destruction, only of change. What you fear may be your salvation or your downfall. We cannot say." Zeus clenched his fists. "Then you are no help to me." Atropos stepped forward, her silver shears glinting faintly. "We are not meant to help, only to weave. But remember this, Thunderer, wisdom cannot be swallowed without consequence." And then they vanished, leaving behind only the scent of rain and iron. Days turned to weeks. Metis glowed with quiet grace, her eyes soft with thought and kindness. She spoke to Zeus of dreams, of balance, of the future they would share. She spoke of the child as a symbol of harmony, of a union between strength and reason. But Zeus heard only the whisper of prophecy. At times, he tried to see her words as truth, to trust the love that bound them. But then, as night fell, the memories of his father's fear rose again, wrapping around him like chains. He began to avoid her gaze. When she reached for him, he would smile faintly but withdraw. When she spoke, he listened, but the warmth that once filled his eyes was dimmed. Metis noticed. One evening, by the edge of the silver pool, she touched his hand and said, "Gently, you carry a storm inside you, my love. Speak to me of it." Zeus stared into the water, seeing his reflection ripple with every heartbeat. "I fear what I do not know, Metis. Our child will be powerful, perhaps too powerful." Metis smiled softly. "Power and wisdom are not the same. This child will not take your throne, Zeus. It will protect it." Her words should have soothed him. Instead, they burned. For even in her reassurance, he heard the prophecy's echo. She will be strong. That night, as lightning coiled across the sky and the stars watched in silence, Zeus made his choice. He would do what his father had done, but not out of cruelty, he told himself, out of necessity, out of protection. He could not allow fate to choose for him. He would find a way to contain the prophecy, to keep it within himself where no power could rise against him. He looked upon the sleeping form of Metis, her face peaceful in the pale light, and a tear slipped down his cheek. "Forgive me, Metis, but I cannot lose the heavens." And thus the seeds of tragedy were sown.
The dawn rose pale and uncertain. Even the clouds seemed heavy, as if Olympus itself felt the sorrow that hung between its king and queen of wisdom. Metis walked through the gardens of light, her hands brushing against the blossoms of ambrosia. The air smelled of honey and thunder, but she could feel something else, a stillness, like the pause before lightning strikes. Zeus watched her from afar, hidden in the shimmer of mist. His eyes followed her movements, gentle and sure, and his heart ached. He loved her, truly, deeply, but the prophecy beat in his mind like a constant drum. From wisdom shall come the one who will surpass the Father. The fate's words twisted through him like wind through fire. He had decided, but even gods, when they choose against love, feel the sting of pain. Metis sensed it that morning. The air had changed, not with wind or sound, but with feeling. The gods moved quietly in the halls, their laughter softer than usual, their steps cautious. Even the nymphs whispered among the trees, unsure why the sky had darkened. She looked up. The horizon glowed faintly gold, but behind it loomed a mass of deep gray cloud, thick and slow-moving. Zeus approached her near the edge of the garden, where the sky met the sea. His face was calm, too calm, and his eyes were like stormlight behind glass. "Metis," he said softly, "come walk with me." She smiled, though a small tremor passed through her chest. "Always, my king." They walked together down a path of marble that shimmered like rainwater. The world below stretched endlessly. Rivers, mountains, mortal lands, still untouched by thought. "You have grown quiet," she said at last,
Does the prophecy still trouble you?" Zeus did not answer immediately. He looked toward the clouds, watching the lightning coil far away, silent but alive. "Tell me, Metis," he said finally, "can wisdom change what fate has written?" She looked up at him, her eyes soft but steady. "Wisdom can guide it. Fate is the river. Wisdom is the hand that steers." Her words were meant to comfort him, but they only deepened the turmoil inside his heart. For he saw her truth, and he knew that if anyone could shape destiny, it was she. Zeus took her hand and smiled faintly. "You speak in riddles, as always," he said, "but I would hear your voice forever. Tell me, Metis, how do you craft such perfect counsel? What gives you such insight?" Metis laughed softly. "It is not magic, my love. It is listening. Even the wind will tell you its secrets if you are patient enough." "Then listen to me now," Zeus said gently. "The winds whisper that I fear losing you to your own greatness. Stay close, Metis. Let me keep you safe within me, as thought stays within the mind." Metis tilted her head, puzzled. "What do you mean?" Zeus smiled, sorrow and thunder mingling in his voice. "Come to me. Let me hold you, and we will become one thought, one being. No fate, no fear, no separation." Metis's heart wavered. She felt the tremor in his words, love twisted with fear. She stepped closer, searching his eyes. "You wish to unite with me in spirit?" "Yes," he whispered, "in spirit, forever." And before she could answer, before the wisdom of her mind could rise to question, Zeus opened his mouth, and in an instant of divine power, his form blazed with light. The air split with thunder. Metis gasped as the winds swirled around her, drawing her upward, her body turning to golden mist. She reached toward him, not in fear, but in realization. "Zeus, what have you done?" And then she was gone, drawn into his form, swallowed whole by the king of the gods. The storm that followed was unlike any seen before. For a brief moment, all Olympus trembled. The rivers froze mid-current. The air turned thick and still. The gods looked to the heavens and saw Zeus surrounded by a ring of lightning that neither burned nor faded. Hera covered her face, whispering, "What has he done?" Poseidon, gripping his trident, said nothing. He only stared upward, eyes wide. Even Hades, in his shadowed realm below, felt the echo, a ripple in the order of all things. Zeus stood in the garden, silent, breathing heavily. The thunder in his chest rolled like a heartbeat too loud for the world. His eyes glowed white with stormlight. Inside him, something stirred. He could hear Metis's voice, faint, soft, like a breeze whispering through the halls of his mind. "You cannot destroy wisdom, my love. You have only brought it closer." He closed his eyes, pain and awe mixing within him. He felt her thoughts, her calm presence, her insight. She was part of him now. He had swallowed wisdom itself. But in his heart, he knew this was not victory. It was the beginning of something greater than he could imagine. Days passed. The storm faded, and the skies above Olympus returned to light. The other gods asked no questions, though they all knew. They bowed to their king, pretending not to notice the strange silence that followed him. But when Zeus sat upon his throne, the golden crown seemed heavier. His head ached, a constant throb deep behind his temples. At first, he thought it was guilt, the echo of what he had done. But as time passed, the pain grew stronger. It pulsed like a living heartbeat inside his skull. Sometimes, when he was alone, he could hear her, Metis, whispering inside him, her voice gentle and wise. "Do not fear, Zeus. The child grows. She will not destroy you." "The child?" he whispered, once, clutching his head. But he knew. The truth came to him in a flash of thunder. Metis had been carrying their child when he swallowed her, and now that child was growing not in the womb, but within his mind, within his very thoughts. The ache became unbearable. Days turned to weeks, and Zeus found himself unable to rest. When he tried to summon lightning, it flickered. When he spoke to the gods, his words were short and strange. He would press his hands to his temples, grimacing as thunder cracked faintly in the air. Hera begged him to rest. Apollo offered songs of healing, but no remedy helped. Zeus's pain was not of the body, it was of the spirit. Inside his mind, Metis's wisdom grew brighter and brighter, shaping something divine, something that was both her and not her, something that would soon break free. Each night, Zeus would pace the skies, lightning flashing with every step. His cries echoed across the heavens, heard even by mortals who did not yet know the name Athena. And still, the voice within whispered, "Soon, my love, she is ready. The goddess of wisdom comes."
The skies above Olympus no longer shone with the same brilliance. The golden clouds that once rippled gently across the heavens now moved unevenly, as though uncertain of where to drift. The winds, loyal to Zeus, trembled as if afraid to breathe too loudly. And at the center of it all, upon his throne of storm and marble, sat Zeus, the mighty ruler of gods and men, his hands clutching his temples, his face shadowed by agony. The thunder that once obeyed his command now rolled on its own, wild and restless. Bolts of lightning tore through the clouds at random, splitting the air with soundless rage. The other gods watched in silence. None dared approach. For within Zeus, a storm far greater than any seen in the sky was taking place. A storm of creation. At first, the ache in Zeus's head had been a whisper, a dull, distant pressure. He had dismissed it as guilt or the weight of kingship. But as the days passed, it grew sharper. The pain came like waves of thunder inside his skull, pulsing stronger each hour. Sometimes it felt as though the lightning itself had turned inward, striking behind his eyes. He would cry out in anguish, gripping his crown as bolts of light escaped from his hair and shoulders. The gods below would hear the cries echo through Olympus, shaking the marble halls. Hera, his wife, approached him often. "My lord, what torment grips you?" she pleaded. Zeus could only shake his head. It is within me," he gasped. "Something grows, something bright and heavy. My thoughts burn as if they are alive." He tried to silence it, to still his mind, but the more he resisted, the louder the storm grew. Within him, a voice began to whisper, soft, calm, and knowing. "Do not fight it, Zeus. You cannot silence wisdom. You can only give it form." It was Metis, or something of her essence, still alive within him. Zeus pressed his hands harder against his temples. "Leave me!" he roared, though his voice cracked with pain. But even as he spoke, another presence stirred. Not Metis, but something new. Something becoming. The child within Zeus was unlike any life before.
She was not bound by flesh, but by idea, a spark born of wisdom and thunder. Each flash of pain was a surge of her forming mind. Each roll of thunder was her heartbeat. She was gathering herself, light and thought swirling into being. Within the storm that was Zeus's consciousness, she began to see. She began to think. She did not yet have a name, but she had purpose. She felt her mother's calm wisdom and her father's burning power. The two forces wove together within her like gold and flame, and she grew swiftly, forming in silence. From within, she whispered, not in fear, but in longing. "Father, I am coming." Zeus trembled. The voice was clear now, more than an echo, it was real. He rose to his feet, staggering. Lightning crackled through his hair and hands, and his golden crown fell from his head, shattering against the marble floor. Hera rushed forward, calling to him, but a wall of wind flung her back. The sky above Olympus darkened instantly. Bolts of lightning lashed outward in all directions, piercing the clouds like glowing spears. The air smelled of metal and rain. The gods fled to the edges of the mountain, covering their eyes. And still Zeus clutched his head, roaring, it burns like fire and light together." Among the gathered gods stood one who did not flee. Hephaestus, the god of fire and craft. His hands, scarred and strong, gripped his mighty hammer, forged from the heart of a fallen star. He watched Zeus's torment and felt pity, for he understood the pain of creation, the agony of forging something great. Hera turned to him, pleading, "Hephaestus, you must help him. If this continues, Olympus itself may split apart." Hephaestus stepped forward cautiously, the thunder curling around him like living smoke. "My king," he said, raising his voice over the roar, "forgive me, but I must relieve your suffering." Zeus could not answer. His eyes glowed white, his body trembling with unbearable energy. Hephaestus lifted his hammer, whispered a prayer to the heavens, and brought it down not upon Zeus's heart, but upon his head. The strike rang out like the sound of the world being born again. The sky split in half. Thunder exploded across the heavens, echoing from the peaks to the farthest sea. The clouds turned to fire. And then, silence. From the crown of Zeus's head, where Hephaestus's hammer had struck, a beam of pure golden light burst forth. It was so bright that the gods fell to their knees. The marble of Olympus glowed as if it were alive. Out of that light, a figure rose, tall, radiant, and fully grown. Her armor shimmered like silver dawn. Her eyes glowed with wisdom, calm and fierce all at once. Upon her brow rested a crown of olive leaves, and in her hand she carried a shining spear. Her voice, when she spoke, was like music woven with thunder. "I am Athena, child of Zeus and Metis, born of thought, born of strength." The storm stilled, the winds bowed, the heavens themselves seemed to breathe in awe. Zeus fell back upon his throne, exhausted but alive. His pain was gone. His face shone with wonder and relief as he looked upon his daughter. Athena stepped forward, kneeling before him. "Father," she said gently, "your fear has given birth to wisdom. You have not lost the heavens, you have given them sight." And in that moment, Zeus understood. He had feared wisdom's power, yet it had been his salvation all along. As light returned to Olympus, the gods gathered again, now in peace. The storm clouds dispersed, revealing a sky so clear it seemed newly made. Apollo strummed his lyre softly. Poseidon smiled faintly. Even Ares bowed in respect. Hera, still trembling, touched Athena's hand. "You are truly your mother's daughter," she said. Athena bowed. "Her wisdom lives through me, and through the thought that guides us all." Zeus rose weakly from his throne. The pain was gone, replaced by calm, a quiet in his soul he had never known before. He gazed upon Athena and said, "You are both my punishment and my peace." Athena smiled. "Then let wisdom guide thunder, Father, for power without thought is only storm without rain." Zeus laughed softly, the sound echoing across the skies like warm thunder. "Then let it be so."
The world was still trembling from the echo of Zeus's cry when the light began to fade. What had burst forth from his head was no child in need of nurture, no infant wrapped in divine silk, but a woman already whole, strong and beautiful beyond compare. She stood upon the marble floor, the glow of creation still surrounding her. Her eyes were deep gray, like the calm sea after a storm. Her armor gleamed as though forged by the sun itself, and from her shoulders flowed a silken robe that shimmered in hues of silver and blue. The gods who had gathered around Zeus's throne stared in awe and silence. None had ever seen such a birth. For a long moment, no one dared to speak. The air still hummed with divine energy. The scent of lightning hung thick. Zeus, weary yet filled with wonder, looked upon the figure before him. He had felt her grow inside his mind, her voice, her presence, and yet the sight of her made him tremble. He whispered softly, "Athena." The name came to him like memory, like something older than speech itself. The newly born goddess turned her gaze toward him. Her eyes glowed faintly with wisdom, though her expression was serene. She bowed her head in reverence. "Father," she said, her voice clear as a temple bell, "I am born of your thought and your storm. I am your mind made visible." At that, Zeus felt a strange peace wash over him. The pain that had consumed him was gone, replaced with lightness. Around them, the gods began to kneel, not from fear, but respect. Hera, ever regal and proud, stepped forward slowly. Her heart was torn between awe and uncertainty. She had seen many strange births among gods, from the sea, from stone, from fire, but this was unlike any other. She studied Athena's calm face, her shining armor, her eyes that seemed to see both heart and mind at once. Born from the head of Zeus, and yet so full of grace and thought. "Tell me, child, are you war or peace?" Athena met her gaze and smiled gently. "Both when they are needed. I am the balance between blade and wisdom, the strength that thinks and the mind that acts." Her words settled like calm rain. Even Ares, the god of war, who had been standing proudly with his bronze spear, lowered his head slightly. He had fought countless battles, but in her presence he felt something deeper, not the chaos of combat, but the precision of purpose. Hermes,
ever curious, darted closer, circling around Athena as though studying a new riddle. A warrior and a thinker. Perhaps she will argue with me about cleverness. Athena faintly smiled. Perhaps. But wit without wisdom is like wings without wind. Hermes laughed. Ah, then I shall learn from you, if only to keep flying. Apollo, god of light and prophecy, approached next. His golden hair caught the faint glow of Athena's aura. Sister of thought, your birth has brightened Olympus. Your wisdom will guide our songs. Athena inclined her head. Then may music remind gods and mortals alike to listen, not only to what is said, but to what is meant. A hush fell again. Even the winds that had swirled restlessly around Olympus now grew still, as though listening. As she spoke, a faint rustle sounded in the air. From the shadows of the temple roof, a small owl descended, silent and sure, its eyes wide and golden. It landed gently upon Athena's shoulder. The gods murmured in surprise, for no bird had dared come so close during the storm. Athena looked upon it with warmth. The owl sees in the night. It watches when others rest. Let it be the symbol of clear sight, of wisdom that sees beyond darkness. And from that moment, the owl became her companion, her symbol for all ages. Zeus, weary yet filled with wonder, rose weakly from his throne, his strength slowly returning. He studied his daughter, his creation, his inheritance, and felt something stir deep within him that he had never known before. Respect. He said, "My child," his voice quieter now, "you were born from my head, from the very seat of thought and power. You carry within you both the mind of Metis and the might of thunder. Tell me, why have you come?" Athena raised her eyes to him. Her gaze was calm but unyielding. To remind even the strongest that power without wisdom is like lightning without aim. You, Father, rule the heavens, but I will rule the reason that gives them order. Her words carried no pride, only truth. Zeus felt their weight and knew she spoke not in challenge, but in harmony. He nodded slowly. Then let it be so. You are my equal in thought, my guide in judgment. The throne of Olympus will stand firmer with your wisdom beside it. The gods rejoiced then. Trumpets of wind blew from the peaks and rays of sunlight poured down upon Athena. The air shimmered with the scent of olive leaves, her sacred tree, symbol of peace and endurance. From the fields below, mortals would later tell tales of that day, how the sky turned gold, how thunder sang instead of raged, and how a voice spoke across the heavens, calm and wise. It was said that where her first step touched the earth, the olive tree grew, roots sinking deep, branches rising high, bearing fruit both bitter and sweet. She looked upon it and said, "Let this tree stand for the harmony of wisdom and strength, for peace earned through understanding." As the light settled, the gods gathered around her. They asked many questions about the world, about fate, about what her coming meant. And Athena said, "Wisdom was born from fear. Zeus feared Metis' child would dethrone him, yet by swallowing her he planted the seed of thought within himself. From fear came knowledge, from resistance, understanding. That is the way of creation." The gods fell silent, each reflecting upon her words. Even Zeus, proud as he was, looked humbled. He reached out and placed his hand upon her shoulder. He said, "My child,
You are more than my daughter. You are my mind made whole." Athena bowed. "And I shall keep it steady, Father." As evening fell over Olympus, the sky blushed in shades of gold and purple. The air was soft again, filled with peace instead of thunder. Athena stood upon the balcony of Zeus's hall, the owl resting quietly beside her. Below, the mortal world glittered faintly in the distance, small fires flickering like stars. She gazed upon them with quiet affection. "One day," she whispered, "I will walk among them. I will teach them craft and reason, courage and fairness, for they too are born of thought." And as the stars began to appear, she lifted her spear gently toward the horizon. "Let wisdom never sleep," she murmured.
The air above Olympus had never been so still. Days had passed since Athena's birth, yet the mountains still shimmered faintly with her light. The skies, once full of thunder, now glowed with calm gold. The gods moved more softly through their halls, speaking not in pride, but in thought, for they had witnessed something that even eternity could not forget, the birth of wisdom itself. Zeus had regained his strength, though a quiet change had rooted in him. The storm still lived in his hands, but it now listened, no longer wild, no longer reckless. His judgments grew fairer, his words measured. When he spoke, the clouds paused to listen. And when he sought counsel, it was no longer the echo of his own power he turned to, but Athena. In the bright halls of Olympus, she walked beside him, not as servant, not as challenger, but as balance. She spoke little, but when she did, her voice guided the gods like wind shapes flame, never destroying, only steadying. Even Hera, who had once feared the strange birth, found comfort in her presence. "You bring stillness where storms once lived," she told Athena. Athena smiled. "Wisdom is the child of storms, Lady Hera. It remembers what thunder once tried to forget." One dawn, as the golden light crept over the horizon, Athena descended from Olympus to gaze upon the mortal world. She saw the humans, fragile, curious, building fires against the night. They worked hard but stumbled often, ruled by fear and desire. She watched a man strike stone against stone to make a spark. He cheered as it caught flame, though his hands bled. Nearby, a woman weaved a basket with trembling fingers, her child asleep beside her. Athena's heart softened. She seek light, but they do not yet know how to guide it. So she walked among them unseen, her steps silent as thought. She entered the dreams of the woman and showed her how to shape the basket more tightly, how to weave lines strong as branches. She whispered to the man the secret of fire, how to protect it, not fear it. By morning, both awoke with new ideas, thinking they had discovered them on their own. Athena smiled from afar. "Wisdom must never be a gift," she said. "It must feel like a discovery. Only then will it endure." And so she became the unseen guide of mortals, the whisper in the craftsman's ear, the calm in the heart of the brave, the thought before the strike of the blade. When mortals began to tell stories of the Lady of Thought, Athena returned to Olympus. There she spoke before Zeus. "Father, the world below grows stronger, but their strength will turn to chaos if not shaped by reason. Let me teach them, not rule them, but guide them." Zeus nodded. "You are my mind, daughter. Go and share it. But remember, mortals must walk by their own steps." And so Athena descended again and chose a city beside the shining sea,
a place where olive trees grew wild among the rocks. She stood upon a hill and planted her spear into the ground. From that place, an olive tree sprang forth, tall and green. "This city shall live under my wisdom," she declared. "Let it be named Athens, in honor of thought and courage united." The mortals who had once worshipped only thunder and war now lifted their eyes to her calm face. They built a temple of white stone upon the hill, its pillars rising like rays of dawn, and within it they placed an image of Athena, not fierce, but serene, holding both a spear and an olive branch. From that moment, the world began to change. Though Athena was a goddess of peace and understanding, she was not afraid of battle. When war came to mortals, she stood with those who fought with honor, who defended, not destroyed. When the foolish or the arrogant went to war for greed, she turned her face away. She taught generals to think before they struck, to listen before they spoke. And those who followed her learned that true strength is calm, not rage. Even Ares, who once mocked her quiet patience, grew to respect her. "You fight without fury, and yet none can defeat you," he said. Athena replied softly, "Because I fight with purpose, not pride." And in those words, even Ares heard wisdom. One evening, as the stars began to glow over Olympus, Zeus gathered the gods. He looked upon Athena and said, "You have brought peace to mortals and stillness to the skies. But tell me, my daughter, do you ever regret being born of my pain?" Athena's eyes softened. "No, father, for pain is not the enemy of wisdom. It is its forge." Her words echoed through the golden halls. Hermes smiled, Apollo strummed his lyre, even Poseidon bowed his head in quiet thought. Zeus arose and placed his hand upon her shoulder. "Then you shall forever be honored among gods and mortals alike, not as my creation, but as my completion." The heavens glowed as his words settled. A new constellation appeared in the sky, a shining shape of an owl, wings spread wide. It was said that whenever the world fell into darkness, that constellation would appear to remind mortals that light begins in thought. Time flowed gently in the ages that followed. The olive trees of Athens grew tall, the temples filled with songs, and mortals began to write, to dream, to reason. They built cities guided by her spirit, and in their minds her whisper remained, the call to think before acting, to seek truth before judgment. And though centuries passed, Athena never truly left them. Her owl still watches from the moonlight, and her calm voice still speaks in the quiet of decision. When a child learns, when a leader listens, when a craftsman shapes beauty with care, her spirit moves through their thoughts. For wisdom once born cannot die. And now the storm has ended. The thunder rests and the mountain sleeps again under soft starlight. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and courage, still walks in silence, not in the heavens above, but in the hearts of those who think before they act, who seek peace before pride. Let her story remind you that even from pain, beauty can be born. Even from fear, thought can rise. For the light that lives in the mind is the calm after every storm. You are listening to The Sleepy Cloud. Close your eyes now and let Athena's gentle wisdom guide your dreams, steady, quiet, and endless as the stars above Olympus.